Hey, what's up, everybody? It's me, Danae, and I'm here with a message for you. Happy Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024. Hope you're having a great day. We're going to get right into the message, see what it is that we get to know today. Just cut it one more time. Well, actually two more, just to be fair. And here we go. Whoa, 6 of Wands. Great way to start. Victory, success, rewards, recognition, in relationships or in partnerships that are protected or that are secured. Yeah, with this in a new world order. And I would say secure. I would say secure from demonic interference. That's just what I feel. We're gonna keep it moving fast today if we can. Demonic possession. Yeah, that's what it is. Secure from demonic possession. Maybe even reclaimed from is what I feel. What once may have been in submission to a dark force field, perhaps. That cycle is closed with the World card, and those strongholds, chains, bondages may be released. And so leaves room for new contracts, new commitments, union to be reestablished, even perhaps on new terms and under a new order that again is protected, is well supported, has been tried and true, tried, tested to be true, and has a great deal of reward in store in the present tense and also in future projection. Yeah, all that. Okay? What's behind the devil? Just to see. Ace of Pentacles and the Judgment. I know that's right. And the Queen of Swords. Objective decision making by way of the divine to secure this great gift and opportunity, and again to reclaim it, or I don't know, like to almost pry it from the devil's hands is what I'm feeling. Or maybe you were pried from the devil's hands. Oh God, I feel something on that, where there were strongholds and bindings and limitations that perhaps maybe once upon a time you submitted to freely, almost innocently. Yes, like you've been reclaimed by the divine from demonic forces. Interesting. Let's see what else we got. The Magician in reverse. No more tricks and manipulation. Close out that cycle in the previous season. Yep, the things that may have been causing imbalance, and perhaps even the tricksters themselves just don't have the tricksters of the old world. You know, what was, I'll even say, not even just the tricksters, but the deceptions of the old world. That mentality, that spirit is no longer secure to operate in the function and frequency that it used to. It's been closed out. It's been disabled, destabilized, and now it's in reverse. So it's like what used to be foolproof to manipulate the masses, to even those that, you know, manipulated one-to-one individuals, to force outcomes that were unjustifiable. It doesn't, those tactics have been overturned, and there isn't a great deal of balance with coming up with methods of regeneration for that old desirable outcome. Shoot, it may even be people running out of money and resources with that Two of Pentacles, or it's run out of steam if we're talking about it as from a spiritual perspective, and from how can I say it? As, I don't know, as a concept, you know, then it has run out of steam. It's run out of the resources and the support that it once used to operate off of effortlessly to some degree, or at least a great deal more than what it seemed the adverse energy would have operated on naturally. This is a very unnatural manipulation of energy for ulterior motives, for selfish favor, at the expense or the casualty of others. All of that was well supported, well financed, you know, up until now. But that's what I'm getting, like it's run out of steam to fund that objective, or that agenda, I should say. Like it takes a great deal of pardon me, money, time, resources, effort, connections, yeah, even confidence and power in general. It takes a great deal of power to keep that machine going, to charm the masses, or even charm one person. You know how it is when you tell a lie. You got to put a lot of energy and effort behind that, relentlessly. Sometimes you forget the lie you told, so it takes far more energy to try to keep up with the story that you've created, in this case the illusion that you've created, than it does to actually be honest and forthcoming. And some people have chose that harder road. They felt there was more reward in that upheaval of keeping up the illusion than there was to be authentic, to be honest, to be organic. At least there was a faster turnaround of reward, a more immediate gratification than the delayed gratification that is seen to afford to do the opposite, pretty much. But it takes a lot, and it seems like the operation has run out of steam. And also, I feel like if we're talking about person to person, of those that have devoted themselves to an agenda such as this, align themselves with that agenda, it's like I said, it's exhausting, and eventually things fall apart, you know, where you can't juggle all of those balls at once. But for so long before one of them drops, and then before you know it, another, and then another, and you know, you're empty-handed by the end of it all. So, as I said, it's like where one thing may have fueled the other, and the other, it's, you know, it was a stacked effect to ultimately build up to this one illusion or one ideal. All you need is for one of those pieces to falter, you know, particularly from the bottom itself, and everything else comes crumbling down. And then you find, you know, you ever see somebody trying to catch the balls before they hit the ground like that? I feel like that's the energy that's happening now, where people are kind of trying to do damage control for what they've created, trying to backtrack and fix what they've done, try to mend old bridges, really trying to protect themselves here with the Seven of Wands, trying to reconfigure a way forward again. And it's just like there's a lot to attend to at this point that has made more of a job, more of like I said, an upheaval, even more so now than what was projected before, having made the decision to go the other way. Exactly, Five of Wands, competition, chaos, confusion, upheaval, unsettledness. This could be internally, and like I said, it could be on a more collective scale. Who's the King of Wands here, though? Because the King of Wands feels like it's here. This is a face-off between imposters that, as I said, projected this ideal of power, this illusion of power and creativity that they really didn't earn the recognition and rewards for, or didn't rightfully possess. And now here is the confrontation with those that sit in that seat authentically. And that really is the discord, because it's like once the real, it's like having somebody in person. It's like an impersonation. Yeah, like once the Magician in reverse is like an impersonation of the King of Wands, somebody that was going about the business of the king, giving orders and making commands and demands, and you know, operating in the frequency of authority and creativity. But it was first of all, they weren't appointed to that position, and then they also weren't even empowered to effectively operate in that position. So it's like the king was off, I don't know, doing whatever the King of Wands would do, probably fighting some battle or some war somewhere, taking over some territory elsewhere, or exploring elsewhere even, could be the King of Wands. And they come back to see this fraud in their seat. Like, what are you doing on my throne? Why are you here? And at that point, it's like, like somebody not really having an explanation for themselves. To this point, they may have even convince themselves that they are the rightful heir to that throne because they've been operating in that frequency for so long. Yeah, something about that here. And this is like competition, like I said, like somebody, I don't know, something weird here with the Magician and the King of Wands. They were filling a seat that they were not assigned to. And now they're having to answer for it. Not only are they being escorted out, to put it kindly, maybe outright kicked out of that position. It's like they're also being stripped down as well too. So maybe the power and the talents, gifts, whatever that was possessed in the authentic position that the Magician is privy to, it's in reverse because now they don't even have that anymore. It's like somebody that used to be able to at least be a great illusionist or pull a good, disappearing act or, pull a rabbit out of the hat, and they don't even have that talent anymore. So it's like they can't even just go pick up and take their show on the road elsewhere. It's like somebody being stripped down to nothing. It's back to the bare minimum, or at least stripped down from what it is that they value most to keep the act going. Again, all those balls just falling to the ground, where they would hope to at least be able to pick up one, catch one and run with it. It's like, everybody's hip to their games. Their cover's been blown. News of this treason to some degree has spread throughout the kingdom. So it's like somebody, almost is like blacklisted or blackballed. Like nobody even really wants to get but so close or be affiliated because they don't want to be, associated with that banishment as well, or with that, that reputation to rub off on them somehow. And you know what? I mean, I'm saying this quite practically, kind of practically, but I definitely hear it mystically. And it's like with the Magician card, it's somebody that just was up to no good with what they were doing. It's like you couldn't just sit in the King of Wands seat and act like you had some sense. Oh no, you had to go above and beyond to flex your power, flex your authority, your muscles, probably sentencing people to, execution out of order, taking over territories that you had no right to do so, starting wars with other kingdoms and causing conflicts throughout, the court and stuff, like just doing the most, like to the point where when the king gets back to his empire, to his, to his kingdom, it's a damn mess. It's in shambles. Like he's got to do more damage control on account of what somebody did as an intruder or an imposter than he would have ever had to do just being away. Like it would have been better off left in its, to its own devices, where the people damn near govern themselves, than with somebody ultimately inflicted by dominating, control when they had no jurisdiction to do so. I don't know, maybe that was the point of the Magician, to cause that chaos and corruption, to make it so that it was to either to destroy the kingdom. I'm hearing something here. To either to completely desecrate the kingdom before the king could return, or even in the event that the king, or maybe they didn't expect the king to return, because I was about to say, even in the event that they did return or didn't return, there may not have been an expectation. Like I said, it's like somebody came home unannounced or without you, knowing that they were coming, and it's like, or before you expected them to, maybe even, and it's like, like trying to explain yourself and don't really have an explanation. The King of Wands is not the energy you want to face with that, for sure. Not that aggressive Leo, Sagittarius, or Aries energy. Emphasis on what, Leo? Yeah. That's not what you want. So it's something about that here. Imposters. Creative imposters that have been taking up energy space and desecrating it, or I don't know, maybe it wasn't on purpose, but it's just the energy that they bring to it because of the intention and the motivation that they have. So it could be either way, but it's not something that was handled with care, because it's like, it's kind of like that thing, not that I subscribe to this at all, but when it's not your house or your car or your space, and it's like, oh well, you know what I mean? Even consider like an Airbnb or a hotel or something like that you're just renting the space. Not to say you should, just destroy it or anything like that, but you may not be as careful as you typically would be if you were at your own house, you know what I mean? Or if you were somewhere where the only person left to clean up is you. Again, I don't roll like that. I try to leave any space better than what I found it for the most part. But I'm just saying, like, the mentality behind it. So it could have even been energy like that here with the Magician in reverse. It's definitely somebody that was up to no good, that didn't mean anything productive and the influence that they projected either way. But they took a great deal of liberty to sit in a certain position of influence. And it could even be that, I don't know, I feel a range of different things. It could be that somebody intentionally tried to F stuff up, or somebody just is an F up. Like, they just don't compare, you know what I mean? Like, that's why you don't have the position. That's why you're not the king, because you don't have the character, So I don't know. It's either way, it's just like the time and space of which they took up residence and whatever position this may have been, or whatever space this may have been, and whatever authority they took liberty of, they kind of pretty much proved themselves to be incompetent or insufficient. Like you would best case scenario, it's like you get trusted with a great deal of favor and fortune and range and responsibility. You would want to leave a good impression, to do something special with that opportunity. But either somebody never had, or some, I should say, because it's definitely not a one-person shot here. This is definitely about a mentality. Some people never had here's the Lover's card. Some people never had any intentions to. They were intentionally trying to sabotage the territory that they were temporarily governing, or they just never had the stuff. You know, they never had what it took to govern it wisely. And that could even be like creative influence. It doesn't have to be like a kingdom or something, you know what I mean? But it's like the King of Wands is creative. He's powerful. He's innovative. You know, somebody had a great deal of, or some in general had a great deal of opportunity and just free range to do a lot with a lot of resource, considering the King of Wands type of energy and influence is damn near unlimited. You know, when you think of the alchemical property of the wand energy, and particularly in the mastery of the King of Wands. So somebody could have done a great deal, accomplished a lot with the privilege that they had, and they still did close to nothing, or definitely were disappointing in their performance. And here's the Lovers card with definitely speaking of choice. Now this is like Gemini, Virgo in reverse. This is Gemini in the upright. Something about information, intelligence. Yeah, maybe somebody. And there's a lack of mastery as well on here with the Magician, like somebody. But that's what happens when you're operating out of order. You can't master someone else's craft, especially if it's not. I mean, you may be able to come a little bit close, but you can't. It won't be identical as with the Lovers here, the twins. So back to this idea of like imposter syndrome, but in this case, like imposter, what can I call that? Imposter, I just heard a word and it left me. Because usually when you say imposter syndrome, it speaks to, I mean, I guess it could be the same, you know, but it really usually speaks to when you feel like you're an imposter because you don't quite have the confidence, which makes sense here, or you're lacking some assertion of confidence for the space that you're operating in or functioning in. It causes you to question or be a little insecure or thoughtful about your competence or your qualification to fill a certain space or to be in a certain position. But usually when we speak about that, it's on account of someone actually being mistaken, that they actually aren't an imposter, or you know, whomever may feel that way, but it's just the discomfort of experiencing yourself perhaps in an elevated expression that you're not quite comfortable in yet, and being really quite thoughtful about your performance, how well you're doing. And most of the time, you know, in the highest frequency is on account of wanting to do well, wanting to be impressive or make an impact or a good impression. Not somebody that knows that they have no right to a position, fills it anyway, and then F's it up on purpose. You know, it's like, that's a different sense of an imposter syndrome, but I guess it's all the same. Maybe it's somebody that doesn't even know they're an imposter. And no, I can't give it that benefit of doubt, because with the Lovers here, that's the power of choice being activated here, of someone that, you know, two very distinct choices. One, to operate out of alignment with poor intention, and one to operate in alignment with good intention. That's the disparity here. And the Eight of Swords. disempowerment, this can even be insecurity as well, not feeling trustworthy of your action, your choices, your capacity to move forward in a positive direction or in a positive way securely, you know, to take care of yourself, or even feeling insecure or unsafe in your surroundings even, but particularly with yourself. So I don't know where that came from out of nowhere, but let me see. Because the Lovers here is under the Seven of Wands, which is about protecting yourself and standing your ground. So what's the Eight of Swords? Is that I guess that's the disparity, as I said, between the two intentions. Those that choose to live out of alignment purposelessly, but purposely though, and those that choose to live in alignment and in the integrity and submission to their supreme self. This is like the magician in reverse is like somebody that's trying to do the total opposite. But not only that they, as I said, they want to cause conflict even outside of themselves. It's not enough for them to confine themselves to their poor intentions. It's usually some outward infliction on others, which is represented here with the Eight of Swords, where at least other people suffer on account of their intentions and their actions. But even that is intentional. It's meant, you know, it's meant for that to be the case. Because we're all, you know, capable of making decisions that may or may not be harmful to ourselves or to others, but it's a different frequency when you're doing that with that intention to be a harm to others, and when it just so happens that maybe a choice that you made or action that you took had that residual effect. Here's the difference here. So again, with the lower frequency of this is somebody that never stood a chance to be activated in the King of Wands energy in the upright, because that's a great deal of power and responsibility and influence at your fingertips that the divine would first, as I said earlier, try, test, and prove to be true before you could fill the seat. And it's like somebody had their dress rehearsal or their trial run, or maybe they didn't realize that that's what it was. You know, they probably, I'll save that, but it's like those that had their trial run or their practice run, so to speak. It's something else, like their, what is that? Like their, I almost said dress rehearsal, but that's because they were really putting on a show and an act. But that was not what it was for the divine. At least, you know, best, you know, least case scenario is somebody that, like I said, you got the opportunity to show your stuff, show the universe what you would do if you were given the power and authority to make such a prominent impression on creation, because this is the creative king we're talking about here. And you know, some people did very well with their dress rehearsal or their trial run, and some people failed miserably because when it came down to it, their character wasn't established enough or advanced enough to handle the temptation of perhaps all the things that you could do, like I said, in your decision making, all the things that you could do poorly that would affect others, simply on account that you know, have the liberty to do so by your own choice. It's the King of Wands energy that is disciplined and confident and secure, but also self-controlled, that knows how to temper their reactions and responses, that gets to the position of the King of Wands in the upright on account of having proven that character, not somebody that just jumps in the position. It works the opposite way. It's like, well, it would have been great if somebody was in position and they actually proved to the universal order that they were capable of handling it, but they did not only the opposite, but worse than the opposite. Yeah, like, Yet they feel entitled all the same, don't they? Like I said, trying to backtrack, figure out where they went wrong, reclaim what they thought, what they feel they should rightfully possess. Like I said, perhaps having convinced themselves at this point that just because they sat in the position, they should be entitled to maintain that position. But it's the Knight of Swords. And if you're not going to be feverishly, insistent to answer to this Lover's energy first, it's like you got to get through the Lover's frequency first. That submission to Supreme Self, unto the Divine, to cultivate yourself as your best before you're even really ready to take on the charge of leading others or influencing others or even protecting others. This is somebody that is not in a very protective energy at all. So, with their rage and aggression back toward what they feel they should reclaim, that power and creativity, that, like I said, they probably don't have the privilege of embodying in this time because they've been stripped down, because they didn't do well with it. They're still finding themselves having to get through this energy first before it could even be a thought otherwise. And that's going to be the true test for a lot of folks that are being rerouted, back to start, more or less, or back to the beginning of their misstep, perhaps, where they may have been thrown off track from their original selves. Is that this is a gateway. This is like it literally is like the Lover's energy is like the gatekeeper of all prosperity, in every frequency and form, materially, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, mentally. Like everything that you would be looking to acquire for yourself has to come through this gateway of learning to love yourself with the same rage and insistence that you would to achieve and acquire. It would need to be for this here in order for it to transmute into anything, more than that. And some people are just not, it's a rude awakening to, for some that are finding themselves mustering up the energy to get back on the saddle and, rush in to reclaim what they left behind or what they feel they have some rights to, only to be met here with this gateway where it's like nothing but authenticity can get through here. You can't get back to what that was old world. You can't get back to how you used to acquire power and position or even praise and profit before. If it's not going to be by way of this gate, then you'll be shut out. ultimately, imagine that. And that being the last gate that you want to go through, because it's the one that was rejected before for most. It was been offered to everyone, but for a lot of people, that was the one thing that people took detours around and literally feeling like they was taking shortcuts, but they just really took the long way right back to where it all started. How do you love yourself? Imagine. Yeah. To get right back on the saddle, it's like somebody coming in hot and it's like they gotta turn around. This is the offering that gets to be made at that gate to even gain entry. Not no sword, a sword that you can't fight your way through. You can't force your way through. It has to be in submission here as the Knight of Pentacles, and we know the Knight of Pentacles moves slow, so there is an expectation for a great deal of patience through the process of checking into that gateway as well. It doesn't happen fast and furious as it may have happened in the past, and that is a huge agitation for some. That really is the hardest thing to face in this season, because it's been so long that people have been doing things in a certain frequency, at a certain rate, with a certain agenda, and again, as I said, with all the resources and support in the world to do it, almost feeling invincible, which is why there's probably this great sense of delusion, because there's been so much illusionary evidence that's more or less like inflated the ego of people's power and their influence in ways that really wasn't altogether real. That was even being used for a purpose of advancement for creation overall. And also, as I said, the trial run to see, okay, well, what will you do if given that privilege, And meant for some, it was the trial of what would you do with barely any privileges at all. Each kind of had their own test. And so the tough thing really here is those that are insistent on having it the way of old, because it doesn't make sense. Like, it doesn't quite register that gateway could be closed in such an instance as it seems to have been so, when it's been gaping, wide open for the most part for all this time, for those that knew the secret passageway to get to it, of course, because not everybody was privy to where that gateway was open. But those that were felt like, that was home, and there's just no reason at all why it shouldn't be as highly activated in creating the desired outcome of their efforts as it's always been. But the world has changed right before our eyes, and those that insist on refusing that shift are only going to keep coming back to this gate, no matter how many detours they take, how many shortcuts they think they're making, how many side roads, like, oh, I'm gonna go down this alley, I'm gonna go back here, oh, I think somebody told me about a way you could go this way and get around it half the time. There is no shortcut through this gate anymore. You gotta go straight to and straight through. And that's just unfathomable for some people to feel like they did all of this to so-called cut their time short, cut their effort short, cut their dues in half, only to really have to go and pay their dues in total anyway. Imagine. even in the practical sense, imagine. Because sometimes, like, they're particularly like in Delaware, right? There's some ways that you can go to avoid different bridges and stuff like that. If you don't want to pay toll, you can go kind of like the scenic route. And depending on how much time you have to spare, it may be worth it to save a couple dollars and take a couple more streets and turns and so forth. But imagine you do all of that only to find out it literally detours you right back to the bridge that you would have paid to go over anyway in half the time. You would feel really crazy. So I can understand, the rage here. Like like, what is this? It's like almost like a tantrum, that some folks are in right now. A fit, the fit of rage that this is with the Knight of Swords. But like I said, you can't fight your way through. You can't force your way through, and nobody at that gate really cares how mad you are. It's like, it's not even used against you. Not from the gatekeepers themselves or itself, whatever it is that stands at that gate, which ultimately is your own self, your own supreme being, if we're real about it, and the duality of that being of you. But either way, it's like, it won't even hold it against you. Like, how you look at a kid having a tantrum and you just look at them, if you are that mom, like, you just look at them like, okay, once you get finished with all that, it's still what I said. It's still going to be exactly what I said it's going to be. So you can dry your eyes, calm yourself down, take a breath, get a drink of water, and then fall back in line. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what it is. Otherwise, like, you're just going to exhaust yourself in a fit of rage that's not doing anything to help the situation or change it. Yeah, because no matter what, the only way out is in. The only way to is through. Yep, there's the work, 8 of Pentacles. To master oneself, to do the work on yourself, not the shortcuts and, the illusions of which you took other people's work, other people's position, other people's talents, gifts, achievements, accolades, power, authority, and repurposed it as your own. That was never going to fly but for so long, even though it has flown for a very long time, or at least what feels like a long time. Even all good things must come to an end at some point. So what did you think unproductive things we're going to do? That it's like the assembly line coming to a screeching halt, and there's nothing that can get that conveyor belt going again but your own force fuel. Ooh, with the Star card, I think that was already popped open, because I don't think that just happened just now. Look at that. With the Star, exactly. Your own force fuel, authentic, original, organic, of the divine, your destiny, travel from the inside out. That's it. And it's so special and precious that why wouldn't you want to take that journey? It's like you're going to have to do it anyway, because there's no other journey, no other one's journey even that will be quite as satisfying, or nearly as satisfying as the one that is true to you. So that's back to the analogy of trying to go all these different shortcuts to satisfy, what? I don't know. Whatever, and still having to come right back to that bridge or that gateway that you thought you didn't have to cross. And not only is it a shorter distance to go the way, that you're destined, but it actually might even be more scenic. Certainly with less, more scenic meaning the view is nicer. It's still a journey no matter what, but when it's yours though, and when, the level of difficulty is aligned with you, the traveler, it hits different. And I guess you may not know that if you're idolizing somebody else's journey so much that you forfeit your own. But in hindsight, unfortunately, where some are, now seeing, it doesn't even compare. It's not really all that gratifying, even to still consider what could have been if all systems were a go and everything went exactly as you planned. When it comes down to it, it's still not your destiny. It's not your position. It's not your design. It's not within the divine design that is for you. So it's never going to be quite satisfying. It never quite fits for size. It's never seamless. It's never effortless. When you're traveling your own destined path, there may be things about that path, especially from the outside looking in, that have quite a great degree of difficulty, to overcome, which is exhibited here with the Six of Wands. But because it's for you to do, it almost looks effortless because you're doing it the way that you're supposed to and the way that you've been equipped to do so. It's not the same. It's like people have really made their life experience so much harder when they thought they were actually making it easier. And that's the unfortunate part, to me, for them. And I mean, we all have done that in some way, shape, and form, but some of us have seen the signposts and the signals along the way when we were maybe a little bit off the beaten path and redirected. Certainly weren't insistent on going the wrong way at every turn, like refusing to ask for directions. So it's not like we weren't all having all taken a wrong turn or two, or at least seemingly so. But some people just really, no matter how many yields, stop signs, do not enter, dead end, no no exit, red lights, train crossing, every single thing you could possibly think of, they were just like, nope, I'm going this way and nowhere else. And here they are right back at that bridge. Let me see. With the Six of Pentacles. Equal give and take. And what it speaks to is like the community effect of both of those mentalities and everything in between, really. That some, like I was saying before, it's like his insistence to be in the King of Wands seat could have affected an entire kingdom. In the same way that when you're operating in your supreme energy and in integrity to your path, that also has an effect, but more or less a good one, or thoughtfully so, a positive one. But either way, what was that? The Chariot. Wow. Yeah, either way, it's all contributing an effect or an impact to the collective. Either making our ways a little bit harder or making it a little bit easier. In a world that was jilted in a way where we had people, I don't know if it was necessarily more people that were able to make things a little bit harder, but certainly there was more support and more and less awareness of how people were making things a little bit harder for the collective to bear. Imagine that turning it upside down, or at least balancing out, but I think it's turning on its head, where there's more productive impact and influence in the world that allows life to flow a little bit more fluidly for everyone. Which would you really choose? You know, let me do my little part here, do my little work, you know, nothing's little, but I'm just saying, do my work, become self-aware through my own self-discovery, get on my destined path. And not only is that gratifying for me, but I actually am, you know, contributing a great deal of grace to the collective. Versus, fuck them kids. You know, fuck the collective. I'm doing me. I'm getting there as fast as I can. And if you don't like it and you ain't on it, that's on you. And I'm stepping on as many backs as I can to get there. Only to realize that you slowed yourself down and you slowed other people down. It's like, and the thing is the thing that gets me is that there is hindsight now for the choices that have been made on both sides of the spectrum. And people are still, as it is here with the Knight of Swords, being insistent about reclaiming that old way. You know, reactivating themselves in that old order. And it's like, dude, you still don't get it? You've already seen what that leads to for you and for a lot of other people. And you still want, that's still what you choose to do at this point. I think those are the ones that, I don't know. That's probably, you know what, that's why there was that Eight of Swords with the spiritual imprisonment card, because that's ultimately the confinement and the captivity that people are sentencing themselves to by being insistent about in that mindset. That's what it comes down to, is like putting yourself in your own spiritual cage, because you're not going nowhere until you get through this gateway. It's like a guard here, and you know, angels here, you know what I mean? It's like the King of Wands over there on post. You're not going nowhere. Ooh, and it flipped backwards too. You ain't going nowhere. Nothing to be harvested in an imposter's identity. If you're not going to sow into the truth of this frequency for yourself, you won't be able to harvest much. And that feels very practical to me, not even just like a spiritual ideal. And that's what I think people are not really quite submitting themselves to. It's like people are finding the disparity and illusions as they have committed to them or created them or invested in them, because I think it has taken a great hit on people's finances, their livelihood, it has. I mean, I don't even have to think, it has. We even see it in, you know, the propped up illusion of celebrity culture, where nobody's making what they used to be able to make, you know, and that's not even a secret. It's almost impossible to even keep up the facade that there's much of a separation in from celebrity culture to the rest of society anymore. So it's like those that are not surrendered to the new order of their established destiny, you know, it doesn't mean like you got to go save the world. It's just that you have to operate in your own integrity, point blank, period. You have to be true to yourself at this point. And you'll learn along the way, along the path, what that truly means holistically. So it's not something that you have to, you know, again, Knight of Pentacles is not something anybody's ever expected to realize about themselves overnight. And those of us that have been on the journey are still realizing new things about ourselves every day. But if you're not willing to go that way, you're going to hit a dead end every single time, a roadblock, or just a straight up do not enter. And the ways in which people could make a living for themselves, even make live in luxury, you know, on account of what was well supported, lifestyles that were well supported, is just not going to be the case anymore. Not for much longer, and not much more. Five of Pentacles, wow. See, I'm telling you, destitute. If you ain't willing to keep it real, you may not eat. Yeah, now that we went from the 7, to the 5, now to the 4. Holding on to every dollar you make. Not knowing when the next may be coming in, or afraid that there may not be anything coming in. Nobody wants to live like that. That is not a fulfilling way to live. Just on account of refusing to live in spirit and in truth. That's what I'm saying. That's going to be the hardest transition to make for folks at this point. Is accepting that Ace of Cups, because it's something that doesn't project a material value at first. You can't monetize it. You can't really measure it. You don't know what it truly is worth to you until you accept it. And that is divine love and self-love. Back to the Lover's card, as I said, this is where it starts, and this is what was refused. So it's hard for those that have only been operating on a material frequency to now shift to idolize the intangible, inside or outside, you know. So it's a great leap of faith, and some may be up for the challenge and will, you know, make it successfully, but a lot of folks are just not. They're not going to be able to shift their mindsets to perceive something different than what they've conditioned or have been conditioned to know and to live by. Here's the Five of Wands again. Yeah, that competition and chaos. Disorder, disorderly conduct. That's what I just heard. Disorderly conduct. And that may be the impulse to just, like I said, lash out, go into fits, riot, want to tear something down, like I said, that tantrum energy, because you can't have it the way you had it before. But that will only be self-destructive. That won't be impactful on anyone else that does not justifiably deserve it. Which is another, dead end here, because the way in which some folks, as I said, were able to inflict harm or discomfort onto others, you can't even do that anymore. Stripped down from that as well. It's like some folks have no impact or influence outside of themselves at all to do any harm to anything or anyone else, to hardly do any good at this point, but it's really redirecting them back to what? Their internal being. So you don't have anywhere else to go but inside. And anything that you do to try to be a negative influence on the outside, you'll quickly learn that it only comes right back to you. It's rerouted back to self every single time. Really for the purposes of conditioning you to really stop once you realize that you're only hurting yourself. And for you to ultimately surrender, in this case, from the point of attack, to now, submit to love. That's it. That's what it all comes down to be transformed at that, or, as I say, to transition. Because some folks are going to be too insistent to stop even when they realize that they're hurting themselves. It's like hitting it, beating their head against a brick wall till their brains spill out of their ears or something. They can no longer even think for themselves. They just activated, impulsive, compulsive. And those are the ones that are going to ultimately transition out, that refuse to take heed, even when it's for their own, for their own healing and health. It's like, well, hell, if you can't even take the cues of when you're hurting you to stop, you're like, what good is your energy here? What does it produce? Not much. So then that'll be the exit out, most likely. Last card. Well, it's balanced. Wow, Ace of Swords. Truth. Clarity. That's the only way in, the only way out. The only way through, the only way to. And there's nothing you can do to distort that or get around it. It stands on its own. You can't manipulate it. Not anymore. It wasn't even really being manipulated before, where people thought they were manipulating the truth. What they were really doing is just fabricating their own, narratives, which ultimately is what? Just a lie. There was really no magic there, no wizardry. It was just lying. Lying to yourself and or lying to others. And even that will be harmful in this season. There's no room for any of that anymore. High vibes only. Back to square one. Oh, look at that. To build back up, look, and here's the Sun card. If you're not going to submit yourself to the source as a living sacrament, I almost said sacrifice, but in this case, I really do believe that it's you submitting yourself unto the, you could become a sacrifice, maybe that's the slip, but it's really about submission for the purposes of co-creativity. That's what the divine is commanding. Not a slave. Yeah, look at that. 3 of Wands, out of fear, out of trauma, out of toxicity, finding your way back into balance and security with who you actually are, even after having come down to, you know, the foundations of your value, of your identity. That's what the divine requires. Willing participants that are going to operate in the function of supreme creativity to advance creation beyond where it's been impaired for a very long time. Because some may say we got a lot of catching up to do to where we're supposed to have been by now. And if we can all get on board, one for all, we make the way a lot more pleasant, scenic, and accelerated to bliss. So let's get on with it. Why don't we? That's what I say. No more delays. I mean, all I can do is my part. I can't control anybody else. I can't condemn anybody else. I just read the energy as I feel it and as I see it. You take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But my intention is to continue on my path of destiny no matter what. And a great deal of matter has you know, confronted me along that journey. And still, I stay the course. And I feel that, call me crazy, but if I do, that will not only secure a blissful destiny for myself and the legacy that I'm leading, I feel it also contributes a great deal for what creation gets to experience as well. So I am devoted to co-creativity and the advancement of divine destiny and love above all. So it is so, and so it is. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Until next time, as always, I'll leave you with peace.